My name is Natalie Gray, and I'm 32 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family has celebrated my brother Joseph's birthdays with extravagant parties while somehow forgetting mine. Year after year, I accepted this invisible status, silently building my career and saving every penny. This year, when they forgot my birthday again, I stayed quiet. They had no idea about my bonus or what I was planning. Before I continue my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear how I finally claimed my worth. Growing up in our pristine colonial home in suburban Boston, I learned early that some family members shine brighter than others. My parents, Thomas and Eleanor Gray, always made sure we had everything we needed materially. Dad worked as a corporate attorney, while Mom managed several high-end boutiques in the city. From the outside, we appeared to be the perfect American family: successful parents, 2 healthy children, and a golden retriever named Cooper. But within our household walls, a different reality existed. The pattern began subtly when Joseph and I were young. When he turned 10, my parents transformed our backyard into a carnival wonderland. Over 50 kids from school attended, bouncing on the rented inflatable castle, faces painted by professionals, and feasting on catered food. A magician performed impressive tricks that left the children gasping with delight. My parents spared no expense, proudly documenting every moment with their expensive camera. Just 3 months later, when my 8th birthday arrived, I woke up with butterflies in my stomach. Mom rushed us through breakfast, hurrying to get Joseph to his soccer tournament. "We'll do something special tonight, honey," she promised, kissing my forehead before dashing out the door. That evening, after Joseph's game-dominated dinner conversation, Mom placed a store-bought cake in front of me with 8 skinny candles. They sang quickly, and Dad passed me a gift bag containing a generic journal and colored pencils. "You're the quiet one, sweetie," Mom explained when I couldn't hide my disappointment. "Joseph is more extroverted, so he enjoys big parties. We thought you'd prefer something small." Dad nodded in agreement. "Plus, we're just tired from work. Planning big events takes a lot of energy." I didn't understand yet how these justifications would become a lifelong pattern, but I nodded and thanked them for the cake, retreating to my room to write in my new journal about the birthday I had imagined. My Aunt Caroline noticed the disparity during her rare visits from California. "Natalie, why don't your parents have any photos from your piano recital on the wall?" she once asked, gesturing toward the shrine of Joseph's athletic achievements dominating our hallway. I shrugged, having accepted my secondary status. "Aunt." Caroline frowned but lived too far away to intervene regularly. My grandmother Martha became my sanctuary. Living just 20 minutes away, she never forgot my birthday, always arriving with a thoughtfully chosen gift and a card filled with encouragement about my potential. "You have a special light, Natalie," she would whisper while hugging me. "Some people shine like fireworks, demanding attention. Others glow steadily like stars, guiding people home. Never dim your light for anyone." While Joseph brought home average grades that received effusive praise, my straight A's and academic awards sparked minimal interest. "That's nice, honey," Mom would say, barely glancing at my report card before turning back to her magazine. When I won the district spelling bee in 5th grade, Dad had an important meeting and Mom had inventory at the store. I stood alone on stage, searching the audience for familiar faces that weren't there, while my teacher, Mrs. Patterson, gave me an extra congratulatory squeeze, understanding my disappointment. I developed what my childhood therapist later called an invisible child persona. I became exceptionally self-sufficient, completing homework without assistance, packing my own lunches, and solving problems independently. I learned that asking for attention or validation only highlighted its absence, so I stopped asking. In 4th grade, I befriended Olivia Marshall, whose vibrant family welcomed me warmly. Her parents attended every school event, celebrated achievements, large and small, and treated Olivia and her siblings with equal enthusiasm. Initially, I found their dynamics confusing. When Mrs. Marshall fussed over my science fair victory as if I were her own daughter, I nearly cried from the unfamiliar recognition. Olivia's home became my emotional refuge, a place where I felt seen. "Your family is different," Olivia observed after witnessing my 11th birthday, passing with just a hastily signed card from my parents, who were busy preparing for Joseph's upcoming basketball tournament. The simple acknowledgement of this truth felt revolutionary. I wasn't imagining the imbalance. It was real, and someone else could see it too. My 16th birthday fell on the same weekend as Joseph's regional soccer championship. The timing couldn't have been worse, or more predictable. That morning, I woke early, allowing myself a moment of hope that Sweet 16 might finally merit some special attention. I came downstairs to find my parents packing the car with coolers and folding chairs for the tournament. "Oh, Natalie, good morning," Mom said, checking her watch. "We need to leave in 20 minutes. Joseph needs to be there early for warm-up." Dad glanced up from loading the trunk. "There's cereal in the pantry. We'll grab dinner somewhere after the game." Neither mentioned my birthday. I stood frozen in the doorway, the invisible girl turning 16 without anyone noticing. I retreated to my room, applied makeup to hide my red eyes, and joined them in the car, where the conversation revolved entirely around Joseph's prospects for earning a soccer scholarship. We spent my entire birthday on metal bleachers, cheering for Joseph's team. When they won, my parents jubilantly took the whole team for pizza, where I sat quietly in the corner, watching 16 candles burning down in my imagination. The contrast with Joseph's 16th birthday 6 months earlier had been stark. My parents had rented a hotel ballroom, hired a DJ, and invited his entire grade. The celebration culminated with Dad ceremoniously handing Joseph keys to a brand new Jeep Wrangler, complete with custom wheels and a premium sound system. Joseph had stood speechless before whooping with joy, his friends clapping him on the back while my parents beamed with pride. Throughout high school, I channeled my hurt into academic excellence. While Joseph maintained C+ averages that our parents deemed good enough considering his athletic commitments, I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA. I joined every academic club, won national writing competitions, and eventually became valedictorian. Each achievement felt like a quiet rebellion, a way of proving my worth to myself when my family couldn't see it. I also secured part-time jobs from the moment I turned 15, working at the local library and later at a coffee shop. Financial independence became my goal, as I recognized that self-sufficiency would be my escape route. Every paycheck went into a savings account I opened with grandmother Martha's help. Martha remained my emotional anchor, though her health began declining when I turned 17. Despite her arthritis making movement painful, she never missed important moments in my life. She attended debate championships and award ceremonies, her proud smile filling the parental void. When she couldn't drive, she took cabs or arranged rides with neighbors, determined to support me. "Your parents love you," she would insist during our private conversations in her small apartment filled with books and family photos. "They just don't understand you the way they understand Joseph. Some people can only see what's familiar to them." I wasn't convinced about their love, but I valued Martha's perspective. She helped me frame my family experience as a mismatch rather than rejection, which preserved my ability to function in their presence. When my college acceptance letter from Northwestern arrived with a substantial merit scholarship, I sprinted to Martha's apartment first. She cried happy tears, declaring it was exactly what I deserved. Later that evening, I showed my parents over dinner. "Northwestern? That's in Chicago, right?" Dad asked, frowning slightly. "That's pretty far away." Mom skimmed the letter. "A scholarship is helpful. College is so expensive these days." Neither congratulated me directly. The conversation quickly shifted to Joseph's upcoming campus visit to State University, where he'd received a partial athletic scholarship. My parents spent 30 minutes discussing which hotel they should book for the visit and whether they should take him shopping for dorm supplies while there. My acceptance packet sat unopened on the counter for weeks, eventually disappearing into a drawer. By contrast, when Joseph's acceptance arrived, my parents immediately framed it for display. In our living room, my college roommate Melissa Chen was the first person to openly express outrage at my family's treatment. After witnessing a phone call where my parents briefly acknowledged my Dean's List achievement before spending 20 minutes discussing Joseph's fraternity initiation, she confronted me. "Natalie, that's not normal. You know that, right?" Her directness startled me. My parents can be annoying and overbearing, but they'd never ignore my accomplishments while celebrating my brothers. Her words cracked something open inside me. For years, I'd normalized my family's behavior, accepting my invisible status as somehow deserved. Melissa's perspective offered a jarring new lens. Perhaps the problem wasn't my worthiness, but their inability to see beyond their golden child. "Have you ever talked to them about how this makes you feel?" she pressed. I shook my head, the thought terrifying. What would I even say? "Why don't you love me as much as Joseph?" Melissa squeezed my hand. "Maybe start with something specific, like your birthday." But the thought of confrontation paralyzed me. Instead, I threw myself into college life, building connections with professors who valued my intelligence and friends who celebrated my existence. For the first time, I began creating a world where I mattered centrally, not peripherally. After graduating summa cum laude with a double major in marketing and psychology, I landed an entry-level position at TechVision, a rapidly growing technology company in Boston. My graduation ceremony offered another stark contrast in family dynamics. While my parents attended, they arrived late, missed the honors recognition, and left immediately after to prepare for Joseph's graduation the following weekend. Joseph graduated with a respectable but unremarkable 3.1 GPA in business administration. My parents gifted him a fully paid trip to Europe as a graduation present, proudly showing me the itinerary when I visited home. My graduation gift had been a generic card with a $100 check inside. Rather than dwelling on the disparity, I channeled my energy into building my career. I arrived at work an hour early each morning, volunteered for challenging projects, and stayed late to ensure flawless execution. My drive wasn't solely about professional ambition. It stemmed from a lifelong need to prove my worth. Within 18 months, I received my first promotion to marketing specialist. By my 25th birthday, I became the youngest team lead in company history. Each promotion validated what my family couldn't see, that I was exceptional, valuable, and worthy of recognition. The pattern of forgotten birthdays continued throughout my 20s. Each year, I would receive a last-minute text message or hastily purchased gift card, while Joseph's birthdays warranted family gatherings, expensive presents, and social media tributes. His 30th birthday exemplified this imbalance. My parents organized a week-long celebration in Hawaii for Joseph's 30th, inviting extended family and close friends. They rented a beachfront property, arranged private tours, and hosted a luau complete with professional photographers. My mother called me weekly with planning updates, never noticing the painful irony of involving me in elaborate preparations while my own birthdays passed with minimal acknowledgement. "You'll join us in Hawaii, right?" Mom had asked, as if this was a generous inclusion rather than another reminder of the disparity. I declined, citing work commitments. In truth, I couldn't bear witnessing the celebration knowing my 30th birthday 3 months earlier had merited only a text message from Dad saying, "Happy birthday, kiddo. Have a good one." The greatest loss of my adult life occurred when grandmother Martha passed away when I was 28. Her health had been declining for years, but nothing prepared me for the void her absence created. She was the one person who had consistently seen me, valued me, and loved me unconditionally. At her modest funeral, I stood numb as relatives offered condolences to my parents and Joseph, few acknowledging that Martha and I had shared a special bond. Aunt Caroline, who flew in from California, approached me privately. "She loved you most fiercely," she whispered. "She worried about you constantly." A week after the funeral, Martha's lawyer contacted me about a small inheritance, her vintage jewelry collection and personal journals she'd kept throughout her life. Reading her private thoughts devastated and validated me simultaneously. Martha had documented the pattern of favoritism she observed, expressing concern about its impact on my development while noting her admiration for my resilience. "Watched T&E fuss over Jay's baseball trophy for 20 minutes today without asking N about her perfect report card," one entry read. "Considered confronting them but fear it would make things worse for N. Instead, taking her to celebrate privately tomorrow. She deserves champions in her corner." Martha's journals became both comfort and catalyst. They confirmed I hadn't imagined the disparity while forcing me to confront its continued impact on my adult life. After several months of grief-induced insomnia and anxiety attacks, I began therapy with Dr. Samantha Willis. "You've developed remarkable coping mechanisms," Dr. Willis observed during our sessions. "But adapting to unhealthy dynamics isn't the same as healing from them." Through therapy, I began addressing the childhood neglect that shaped my perfectionism, people-pleasing tendencies, and fear of expressing needs. I practiced setting boundaries with family, though these were often tested and violated. I also worked on building deeper connections with friends who valued me authentically. At work, I formed a particularly close friendship with Rebecca Johnson, our creative director. Unlike many colleagues who respected but feared her exacting standards, I thrived under her mentorship. She pushed me to refine my skills while recognizing my unique strengths. "You have exceptional emotional intelligence," Rebecca noted during a performance review. "You anticipate client needs before they express them. That's invaluable in marketing." With therapy and meaningful friendships nurturing my self-worth, I gradually separated my value from my family's perception. Though birthday disappointments and overlooked achievements still stung, they no longer threatened my fundamental sense of self. I was building a life where I mattered, regardless of whether my family could see it. The trajectory of my professional and personal life changed dramatically during my 4th year at TechVision. Our company needed to rebrand its flagship product suite to compete with an aggressive new market entrant. Despite being junior to several colleagues, I proposed a comprehensive marketing strategy that resonated with our executive team. "This approach reflects a deep understanding of our users' emotional journey," our CEO Victoria Bennett commented after my presentation. "It's exactly the direction we need." I was appointed project lead, a position that both terrified and exhilarated me. For 6 months, I worked tirelessly, coordinating with design teams, managing timelines, and communicating with stakeholders. The pressure was immense, but for once, the perfectionism born from childhood neglect served me well. I anticipated problems before they emerged and developed creative solutions that kept the project on track. When we launched the rebranded product line, industry response exceeded all projections. Technology publications praised the intuitive design and emotional resonance of our campaign. New customer acquisition increased by 70% within the first quarter, and our stock price reflected the market's confidence in our strategy. During the company-wide celebration, CEO Victoria pulled me aside. "This success is largely due to your vision and execution," she said, handing me a glass of champagne. "The board has taken notice." 2 weeks later, I was promoted to Director of Brand Strategy with a substantial salary increase and an unexpected year-end bonus of $70,000. The executive notification arrived in my private email, marked confidential with instructions about tax implications. I sat alone in my apartment that evening, staring at the bonus notification with tears streaming down my face. The amount exceeded my most optimistic expectations and represented something more valuable than money: recognition of my worth. When I called my parents to share news of my promotion, their response followed the familiar pattern of mild interest. quickly redirected to Joseph. "That sounds nice, honey," Mom said after my brief explanation of my new role. "Did Joseph tell you about his new business venture? He's opening a fitness center downtown. Your father and I are helping with the initial investment." Dad chimed in enthusiastically. "It's a tremendous opportunity. The location is premium, and with Joseph's connections from his college sports days, he's sure to attract a solid client base." I listened to them expound on Joseph's entrepreneurial potential for 20 minutes without asking a single follow-up question about my career achievement. My news, as always, was a brief detour from the main family narrative centered on Joseph. Later that week, during our regular phone catch-up, Joseph mentioned casually, "Mom and Dad transferred $40,000 to help me secure the gym space. They're so supportive." I bit my tongue, remembering how I'd paid for graduate school entirely through scholarships and part-time work after they explained they needed to conserve funds for retirement. Their financial support of Joseph wasn't surprising, but the amount still stunned me. As my 32nd birthday approached in early spring, I made a deliberate decision to remain silent about it. Previous attempts to hint at birthday acknowledgement had only yielded last-minute obligatory gestures that made the oversight more painful than if they had forgotten entirely. This year, I would expect nothing and spare myself the disappointment. Dewey? Weekend before my birthday, Rebecca invited me to join her at her coastal Maine cottage. "I need help choosing paint colors for the guest room," she explained. "Plus, we both need ocean air." During our drive along the picturesque coastline, Rebecca pointed out an elegant Cape Cod-style house with a "for sale" sign posted near the road. "That place has been on the market for months," she mentioned. "Apparently, the owners relocated overseas for work and are motivated to sell." On impulse, I asked to stop. As we walked the property, peering through windows at hardwood floors and ocean views, something shifted inside me. The house needed updates but had excellent bones and a private path to a small beach cove. For the first time, I could envision a space that was entirely mine, removed from family dynamics and workplace pressures. "I'm going to call the realtor," I announced, surprising both Rebecca and myself. The asking price had already been reduced significantly, and with my bonus and savings, I could make a substantial down payment. After a thorough inspection revealed no major issues, I submitted an offer 10% below asking price, which the sellers accepted within hours. The mortgage approval process moved swiftly given my excellent credit score and stable employment. As I signed closing documents exactly 1 week after my forgotten birthday, I experienced an unfamiliar sense of power. I owned something significant that my family knew nothing about. Over the next 2 months, I drove to Maine every weekend, painting walls, replacing outdated fixtures, and furnishing my retreat with carefully selected pieces. Rebecca helped transport furniture and offered design suggestions, but this project was fundamentally mine, a physical manifestation of my independence and worth. I told no one in my family about the vacation home, not when Dad called to discuss tax strategies for their retirement accounts. Not when Mom texted photos of new equipment arriving at Joseph's gym. Not when Joseph complained about permit delays and unexpected expenses in his business venture. With each improvement to my coastal sanctuary, my confidence grew. I replaced the dated kitchen countertops with gleaming quartz. I installed bookshelves along the living room wall and filled them with novels I'd always wanted to read. I splurged on luxurious bedding for the master bedroom that faced the ocean. Each decision, made without seeking anyone's approval, felt revolutionary. As spring turned to early summer, my vacation home transformation neared completion. Standing on the back deck overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, watching gulls circle in the evening light, I felt a profound sense of alignment. This tangible achievement existed independently of my family's validation. It was mine alone. Bought, with money I had earned, transformed through my vision, and enjoyed on my terms. My 32nd birthday came and went without acknowledgement from my family. No calls, no texts, not even the generic social media post that many distant acquaintances managed to share. The complete oversight might have devastated me in the past, but this year I felt a curious sense of liberation. Their forgetfulness had become predictable, and I had stopped organizing my expectations around them. 3 days after my birthday, an elaborate digital invitation arrived in my email. Joseph was turning 34, and our parents had planned a surprise yacht party on Boston Harbor to celebrate. The invitation featured professional graphics, a catered menu from an exclusive restaurant, and instructions about parking at the marina. Please arrive by 6:30 p.m. to surprise Joseph when he boards at 7 p.m., the invitation concluded. Gifts optional but welcome. We've created a registry at Premium Fitness Supplies for those wanting suggestions. I confirmed my attendance with a brief reply, offering to bring wine. Mom responded immediately with specific preferences for Joseph's favorite Cabernet. In the days leading up to Joseph's celebration, I finalized the last touches on my vacation home. I hung artwork, positioned outdoor furniture on the deck, and planted flowering shrubs along the front walkway. The transformation was complete, from dated property to personally meaningful sanctuary. On the morning of Joseph's party, I made a spontaneous decision. I would finally share my achievement, not through awkward family conversation where it might be minimized, but on my own terms through social media. I spent 2 hours taking perfect photos of each room, capturing ocean views from windows, and creating a video tour that showcased the property's features. I wrote and rewrote my post several times, finally settling on wording that felt authentic, without being confrontational. Excited to finally share my secret project of the past few months, I purchased this coastal Maine vacation home and have been renovating it weekends. Thankful for my career that made this possible, and looking forward to sunrise coffee on this deck for years to come. First-time homeowner. Coastal living. Dream come true, I scheduled the post for 7:15 p.m., exactly when Joseph's surprise party would be in full swing. Then I dressed carefully for the evening in a navy blue cocktail dress, applied subtle makeup, and drove to the marina, arriving precisely at 6:30 p.m. The yacht was elaborately decorated with string lights, floral arrangements, and congratulatory banners. About 40 guests mingled on deck, mostly Joseph's friends and business associates, plus a few family members. My parents bustled around, checking details with the caterers and bartenders, completely in their element as hosts. "Natalie, you're here," Mom acknowledged briefly. "The wine can go at the bar station. Joseph just texted that he's running late, but he should arrive by 7:15. At 7:10, a commotion near the gangway indicated Joseph's arrival. Everyone gathered to shout, "Surprise!" as he boarded, appearing appropriately shocked and delighted. My parents hugged him effusively, champagne was distributed, and Dad made a tearful toast about how proud they were of their son's accomplishments and character. At precisely 7:15, I felt my phone begin vibrating continuously in my clutch bag. As congratulatory notifications flooded in from friends and colleagues responding to my vacation home post, I excused myself to a quiet corner of the deck. My post was garnering attention far beyond my expectations. Friends from college, colleagues from work, and even casual acquaintances were commenting with enthusiasm and support. "This is incredible, Natalie. So happy for you. What a gorgeous place. You deserve this success. That view is to die for. When can I visit?" As I scrolled through responses, my cousin Stephanie approached, phone in hand. "Natalie, is this real? You bought a house in Maine? It's stunning." Her voice carried across the deck, catching the attention of nearby guests. Several people gathered around as Stephanie showed them photos from my post. Their exclamations drew more attention, creating a ripple effect through the party. Within minutes, my phone rang. My mother calling despite standing 30 feet away across the deck. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Again I declined. Then text messages began appearing. "What is this house everyone is talking about? When did this happen? Why would you post this during Joseph's party? Call me immediately." I tucked my phone away and maintained polite conversation with guests who approached with questions about my vacation home. I answered truthfully, but without elaboration, redirecting conversation back to Joseph's celebration when possible. 20 minutes later, Joseph himself appeared at my elbow, his expression a mixture of confusion and irritation. "Mom and Dad are freaking out about some house you bought? What's going on?" "I purchased a vacation home in Maine," I replied calmly. "I've been renovating it for the past 2 months." "And you posted about it tonight? During my party?" His tone carried the familiar entitled indignation I'd heard throughout our childhood, when anything threatened to shift attention from him. "I completed the renovations yesterday and wanted to share my achievement," I said simply. "Your party looks wonderful. The caterers did an amazing job with the seafood display." Joseph stared at me, unused to this calm assertion rather than my usual acquiescence. Before he could respond, Dad approached, his face flushed with anger, partially masked for the public setting. "Natalie, we need to speak privately," he insisted, gesturing toward the yacht's interior cabin. "I'm enjoying the party right now," I declined smoothly. "We can talk another time." Mom joined him, her voice tight. "How could you do this tonight? You've completely taken over Joseph's special evening. Everyone is talking about your house instead of celebrating him." The irony of her distress over divided attention was not lost on me. For a moment, I considered apologizing to keep peace, falling back into my lifelong pattern. Instead, I replied quietly, "I'm sorry you feel that way. It wasn't my intention to disrupt anything. I'm simply sharing good news from my life." "You could have done that any other day," Mom insisted. "Yes," I agreed, meeting her gaze steadily. "There are 364 other days, including my birthday last week." Her expression faltered briefly before hardening again. "That's what this is about? Some petty revenge because we were busy and missed your birthday?" "No," I replied truthfully. "This is about me celebrating my achievement on my own terms." Throughout the remainder of the evening, my phone continued buzzing with notifications. My post had spread beyond my immediate circle to extended family members. Aunt Caroline sent an exuberant message. "Martha would be bursting with pride. Can't wait to visit your beautiful home. You've worked so hard for this." Other relatives expressed similar sentiments, many noting they hadn't realized I was so successful in my career. Their supportive comments contrasted sharply with my immediate family's reaction, highlighting the different lenses through which people viewed my life. As the party wound down, I said polite goodbyes to guests and prepared to leave. Joseph intercepted me near the gangway. "You always need to make everything about you," he said bitterly. "Even when it's supposed to be my celebration." The familiar accusation, so backward from our family's reality, might once have silenced me. Instead, I responded with calm clarity. "Joseph, in 32 years, I've never had a party like this. I've never had my achievements announced in a family toast. I purchased a home with money I earned through hard work, and I'm proud of that. Your celebration is beautiful, and I've participated respectfully all evening. Both things can exist simultaneously." I left him standing speechless, walking confidently to my car with the evening breeze carrying the sound of continuing celebration behind me. For the first time in my life, I had refused to make myself smaller to maintain family harmony. The sensation was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. The 24 hours following Joseph's party brought an unprecedented flurry of communication from my family. Multiple missed calls accumulated while I slept peacefully, my phone silenced. By morning, voicemails demanded explanations about the vacation home, my finances, and the timing of my announcement. I prepared coffee and sat on my apartment balcony, mentally rehearsing responses with Dr. Willis's guidance echoing in my mind. "You don't owe detailed explanations about your life choices to people who haven't shown interest in your life." When I finally returned Mom's call, her voice crackled with barely contained frustration. "We deserve to know about major life decisions, Natalie. How could you purchase property without consulting us? Where did you even get that kind of money? I received a substantial bonus for my work on the company rebranding project, I explained calmly. Combined with my savings, it was enough for a down payment on a property that needed updating. A bonus? How much? She pressed. That's private financial information, I replied, surprised by my own boundary. Just as I don't ask about your financial decisions. That's different. We're your parents. Yes, you are. And I'm an adult managing my own finances successfully. I paused before adding, I've been director of brand strategy for almost 6 months now. The promotion came with significant compensation changes. The silence on her end spoke volumes. She hadn't registered or remembered my career advancement. After a moment, she redirected. Your timing was incredibly insensitive. Joseph's party was completely overshadowed by your announcement. I understand. You feel that way, I acknowledged without apologizing. Just as my birthdays have been overshadowed by Joseph's events throughout my life. Is that what this is about? Birthdays? Her dismissive tone triggered a lifetime of minimized feelings. It's about a pattern, I said quietly. My 32nd birthday passed last week without acknowledgement from any of you. Not a call, not a text, not even a social media comment. 3 days later, I received an elaborate invitation to Joseph's celebration with specific instructions about arrival times and gift preferences. We've been busy with Joseph's business launch, she defended. And you know you're not as expressive about these things as Joseph. You've always been more independent. I was independent because I had to be, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Not because I wanted to be invisible. Dad called next, his approach more directly confrontational. Your mother is very upset. What were you thinking? Natalie? Making a scene at Joseph's party? I didn't make a scene, Dad. I shared personal news on my social media. The fact that people found it interesting isn't something I could control. You deliberately timed it during his party, he accused. For the first time, I didn't deflect or accommodate. Yes, I did. After 32 years of watching Joseph receive celebratory attention while my accomplishments go unnoticed, I chose to share my news on my own terms. That's ridiculous, he sputtered. We've always supported both of you equally. The absurdity of his statement liberated me from concern about his reaction. Dad, can you name the last achievement of mine that you celebrated? My promotion? My industry award? My graduate degree? His lengthy silence confirmed what I already knew. He couldn't recall acknowledging any of these milestones. We've always been proud of you, he finally offered weakly. Pride without expression or acknowledgement feels remarkably like indifference, I responded. Joseph's text arrived that afternoon. Way to steal my thunder again. Always have to be the center of attention. Thanks for ruining my party. The accusation was so fundamentally contrary to our family dynamic that I actually laughed aloud before composing a response. Joseph, this is the first time in our lives I've done anything that diverted attention. From you. I'm sorry it feels uncomfortable, but your reaction speaks volumes. He didn't reply, but I could imagine his indignation. Joseph had never needed to compete for our parents' attention or validation. Having it divided, even momentarily, was an unfamiliar experience for him. The tension with my immediate family contrasted sharply with the warm responses from extended relatives. Aunt Caroline called from California, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. I've booked flights to come see your place in August, she announced. If that works for you, of course. I'm so incredibly proud of you, Natalie. Martha would be over the moon. My cousin Rachel sent a thoughtful message. Your home is gorgeous. I remember how you used to rearrange furniture in your bedroom constantly as a kid, trying to make it perfect. You always had an eye for design. The simple fact that Rachel remembered this detail about my childhood when my own parents seemed to retain so little about me was both touching and painful. For nearly a week, communication with my parents remained strained and minimal. I focused, On work, therapy sessions, and planning my next weekend at the vacation home rather than pursuing reconciliation. The ball was in their court, and for once, I refused to smooth things over at my own expense. 6 days after Joseph's party, Dad called my office unexpectedly. "I'd like to stop by your apartment this evening," he said without preamble. "Just me. There are things we should discuss." His tone was uncharacteristically hesitant, lacking the authoritative edge I'd grown accustomed to. I agreed, setting a boundary of 1 hour for the visit. When Dad arrived, he seemed diminished somehow, less certain than the father who had always presented unwavering opinions about everything from politics to pasta preparation. He declined my offer of coffee or wine, sitting stiffly on my living room sofa. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began after an awkward silence. "About us not acknowledging your achievements." I waited, giving him space to continue without rescuing him from the discomfort. "Your mother and I discussed it, and we realized there might be some truth to it." He stared at his clasped hands. "Not intentionally, of course. We never meant to make you feel less important than Joseph. Intent doesn't change impact," I said quietly, echoing Dr. Willis's frequent reminder. He nodded slowly. "I suppose not." Another lengthy pause followed before he continued. "Joseph said something similar, actually. After he calmed down, he mentioned that you've never had a surprise party or big celebration like he's had." The acknowledgement that even Joseph recognized the disparity surprised me. I'd always assumed he was as oblivious to his favored status as my parents were to my neglected one. "Your mother is having a harder time seeing it," Dad admitted. "She keeps saying you're just different personalities with different needs. But I've been thinking about your birthdays specifically, and I can't remember the last time we did anything special for you." The conversation continued haltingly, with Dad oscillating between defensiveness and genuine reflection. He asked to see photos of my vacation home, showing what seemed like authentic interest in the renovation choices I'd made. As he prepared to leave, he paused at the door. "I can't promise things will change overnight," he said, "but I'd like to try to do better." It wasn't an explicit apology, but from my emotionally restrained father, it represented significant movement. Joseph texted the following day. "I shouldn't have reacted like I did at the party. Congrats on the house. It looks really nice." His message lacked depth, but acknowledged his overreaction, which was more than I'd expected. I responded simply thanking him and offering an open invitation to visit my coastal property someday. Mom remained the most resistant to examining family patterns. When she finally called, her approach combined superficial interest in my home with subtle digs about my sensitivity and attention-seeking behavior. I maintained firm boundaries, redirecting her attempts to minimize my experience without engaging in arguments. "I understand this is difficult to discuss," I told her. "I'm not asking for apologies or dramatic changes. I'm simply no longer pretending that the imbalance doesn't exist or that it hasn't affected me." After several tense exchanges over the following weeks, I extended an invitation that surprised even me. "I'm hosting a small housewarming at my vacation home next month. I'd like all of you to come if you're willing." The invitation represented both boundary and olive branch, welcoming them into my space on my terms. Their acceptance would require acknowledging my achievement, rather than diminishing it. Their behavior there would determine the nature of our relationship moving forward. Dad accepted immediately. Joseph followed a day later with a brief, "I'll be there." Mom hesitated longest, finally agreeing after what I imagined were lengthy discussions with Dad. As I prepared for their visit, arranging guest rooms and planning meals, I felt a curious blend of anxiety and empowerment. For the first time, I would welcome my family into a space that represented my success, my taste, and my independence. Whether they could truly see me there remained to be seen, but I was no longer waiting for their validation to recognize my own worth. The morning my family was scheduled to arrive at my vacation home dawned with perfect Maine summer weather. Sunshine sparkling on ocean waves visible from my kitchen window as I prepared breakfast. I moved through the rooms making final adjustments, fluffing pillows, arranging fresh flowers, and setting out guest towels with a care that reflected both pride and lingering anxiety. When their car pulled into the gravel driveway at noon, I stepped onto the front porch, watching them emerge and take in the property with varying expressions. Dad looked genuinely impressed. Joseph seemed surprised by the home's size and setting, while Mom maintained a carefully neutral expression, neither admiring nor critical. "The drive was longer than I expected," Mom commented by way of greeting. "The GPS took us on some very narrow roads. There's a more direct route I'll show you before you leave," I replied, refusing to let the subtle complaint set the tone. "Welcome to my home. I'd love to give you a tour." Leading them through the rooms I'd carefully renovated, I pointed out original features I'd preserved and updates I'd selected. Dad asked thoughtful questions about the restoration process. Joseph commented approvingly on the entertainment system. Mom remained largely silent until we reached the kitchen with its newly installed quartz countertops and stainless appliances. "This must have cost a fortune," she observed with an unmistakable edge of judgment. "It was a significant investment," I acknowledged calmly, "one that aligned with my financial planning and brings me joy every day." The subtle boundary seemed to register as she nodded without further comment. The back deck with its panoramic ocean view finally drew genuine appreciation from all of them. Even Mom couldn't maintain indifference before the spectacular coastline. "It's breathtaking," she admitted quietly. "This is why I fell in love with the property," I explained. No matter what was happening inside, this view promised perspective. The afternoon progressed with less tension than I'd anticipated. We walked the private path to the small beach cove, collected shells, and returned for drinks on the deck. The neutral territory seemed to allow for conversation that avoided old patterns. Joseph talked about his gym without my parents excessively praising every detail. I shared anecdotes about the renovation process without them changing the subject, to Joseph's endeavors. For dinner, I prepared a housewarming meal that showcased my developing culinary skills, another aspect of my life they knew little about. As we ate at the dining table overlooking the sunset-gilded water, something shifted subtly in our family dynamic. After dessert, Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "I want to say something," he began, glancing at Mom, who pressed her lips together but nodded slightly. "Natalie, seeing this place, what you've accomplished here, it's remarkable. And it's made me realize how much of your life we've missed by not paying proper attention." He continued with uncharacteristic emotional openness. "I'm sorry for that. Truly sorry. No parent wants to think they've favored one child, but your mother and I have been doing some hard reflection since our conversations last month." Mom remained quiet, but I noticed her eyes glistening. Joseph studied his dessert plate, uncomfortable but not interrupting. "We'd like to start by properly acknowledging your birthday," Dad continued. "It's late, but we brought something." He retrieved a small gift bag from their room and placed it before me. Inside was a delicate silver picture frame containing a photo I'd never seen before. Me at about 7 years old, sitting on Grandmother Martha's lap, both of us laughing at something off camera. "Martha gave us this years ago," Mom finally spoke. "She said it captured your spirit perfectly. We found it when going through some storage boxes recently. The simple gift held more meaning than any expensive present could have. It acknowledged both my bond with Martha and my parents' growing recognition of what they had overlooked. I thanked them sincerely, placing the frame on my mantel where it belonged. Later that evening, Joseph joined me on the deck while our parents prepared for bed. "I never realized," he said after a long silence, staring out at the moonlit water, "how different things were for us growing up. I just assumed you preferred being quiet and independent." "Parts of my personality are naturally more reserved," I acknowledged, "but much of my independence was survival, not preference." He nodded slowly. I'm trying to understand. It's weird looking back and seeing everything differently. He hesitated before adding, I'm sorry if I contributed to it. I was just soaking up what they gave without questioning why you weren't getting the same. His apology wasn't perfect, but it was genuine. For the first time, I felt Joseph seeing me as a person with experiences valid in their own right, not merely as an extension of his story. The weekend visit wasn't a magical transformation of our family dynamics. Mom still occasionally made comments that minimized my experiences. Dad sometimes fell into old patterns of excessive interest in Joseph's activities. But something fundamental had shifted. I had claimed my value apart from their recognition, and paradoxically, that had begun to change how they saw me. On their final morning, Mom approached me in the kitchen while I prepared coffee. This place suits you, she said simply. I can see why you love it. Coming from her, this straightforward acknowledgement of my choice without criticism felt monumental. I thanked her, and we stood in comfortable silence watching early light play across the water. In the weeks following their visit, our communication patterns evolved gradually. Dad called regularly, showing interest in my work projects. Joseph occasionally texted about neutral topics without parental prompting. Mom remained the most resistant to change but made small efforts, sending an article about coastal gardening, asking about my weekend plans without comparing them to Joseph's activities. When my half-birthday approached in September, I received a surprising group text from all three of them. Planning ahead for your 33rd birthday next March. Please save the date. Details to follow. The simple acknowledgement represented progress, though I no longer measured my worth by their recognition. The deepest healing had come not from their changing behavior, but from my changing relationship with myself. In therapy with Dr. Willis, I explored the complex emotions surrounding this family evolution. Complete transformation rarely happens, she reminded me. What matters is whether the change creates enough safety and recognition for a relationship that adds to your life rather than diminishes it. I continued building my independent life centered on authentic connections. I mentored junior colleagues who, like my younger self, needed validation of their unique contributions. I volunteered with a community program supporting teenagers from homes where they felt unseen. Each opportunity to help others claim their value healed some part of my own childhood wounds. My vacation home became both sanctuary and symbol of my journey, a tangible reminder that I could create beauty and meaning independently. Some weekends, I hosted friends, filling the rooms with laughter and conversation. Other times I retreated there alone, watching storms roll across the Atlantic, finding peace in solitude that was chosen rather than imposed. The most profound lesson emerged gradually. True self-worth can't be granted by others or taken away by their inattention. While parental recognition matters deeply, especially to a child, adult healing comes from recognizing our own light, exactly as Grandmother Martha had tried to teach me years earlier. I no longer needed my family to acknowledge my birthdays, celebrate my achievements, or validate my choices to know my own value. Their growing ability to see me more clearly was welcome, but not essential to my wholeness. This quiet liberation allowed me to engage with them from a place of choice rather than need, transforming our relationship into something imperfect but increasingly authentic. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Perhaps you recognize parts of this journey in your own life. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to connect with others on similar paths. Remember that your worth exists, independently of others' ability to recognize it. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to claim your own value, whether others see it or not.